Ronald Read spent 25 years fixing cars at a gas station and 17 years sweeping floors at JCPenney. Richard Fascone was a Harvard-educated Merrill Lynch executive with an MBA and an 18,000 square foot mansion. When Read died, he left behind a fortune of $8 million. Around that same time, Fascone filed for bankruptcy, having lost everything to high debt and a market crash. In what other field does someone with no formal training and no industry connections completely outperform a highly educated expert? A humble janitor cannot walk into an operating room and perform a heart transplant better than a trained surgeon. We usually approach personal finance like a branch of physics. We assume it is a strict science governed by math, where memorizing formulas and building the optimal spreadsheet guarantees the best results. But money does not operate in a vacuum. It is tied to human behavior, driven by our emotions, our insecurities, and our personal histories. Doing well with money has very little to do with how smart you are and everything to do with how you behave. Your personal experiences with money make up a tiny fraction of what's actually happened in the world, yet they likely form 80% of how you think the world works. When John F. Kennedy ran for president, he admitted his main memory of the Great Depression was his family having bigger houses and more servants. Meanwhile, millions of average American workers were waiting in relief lines, permanently scarred by the terror of poverty. They viewed risk through entirely different lenses. Because of these narrow perspectives, we struggle to measure the relationship between luck and risk. We tend to look at our own financial wins as the result of raw skill, while assuming the success of others is just random luck, and we do the same for our failures. Every person justifies their financial decisions by plugging the information they have into their own unique mental model of reality. Because everyone is operating on different emotional data gathered from different generations and economic backgrounds, no one's choices are truly crazy. Humans are notoriously bad at predicting financial outcomes because our brains are hardwired for linear thinking. If you add 8 plus 8 plus 8, you easily arrive at 24. But exponential compounding, 8 times 8 times 8, breaks our intuition. Take Warren Buffett. We obsess over his ability to analyze businesses and pick stocks. But out of his roughly $84 billion fortune, over $81 billion came after he reached the standard retirement age of 65. This chart shows Buffett's actual wealth accumulation. He started investing at age 10 and kept going for over 7 decades. But watch what happens if we alter the timeline. Let's say he behaved like a normal person, learning about investing in his 30s and retiring at 60. His net worth today would be roughly $11.9 million. That is 99% less than his actual wealth, and he would likely be unknown to the public. Buffett is a phenomenal investor, but the scale of his fortune is a direct result of his longevity. Unimaginable wealth rarely comes from a single stroke of genius. It is the result of letting compounding run entirely uninterrupted for 3/4 of a century. Getting money and keeping money require entirely opposite mindsets. Acquiring wealth requires you to take risks, be optimistic, and swing for the fences. But keeping wealth demands frugality and a heavy dose of paranoia. In 1929, a trader named Jesse Livermore aggressively shorted the stock market right before the infamous crash. While most investors were wiped out, he walked away with the equivalent of $100 million. But Livermore lacked the defensive paranoia needed to keep it. He continued making massive, highly leveraged bets, pushing his luck until he lost that entire fortune just 4 years later. We often strive to be coldly rational with money, treating it like a math puzzle. But aiming to be mostly reasonable, making slightly imperfect choices that simply allow you to sleep at night, is a much stronger strategy. Survival is the ultimate foundation of wealth. Leaving a wide room for error protects you from unpredictable market shocks, keeping you in the game long enough for compounding to work. Modern capitalism is brilliant at generating wealth, but it is equally efficient at generating relentless envy. The ceiling for social comparison is so high that virtually no one can reach the top. Bernie Madoff already possessed incredible wealth and power as a legitimate market maker, yet he threw his entire life away to orchestrate a massive fraud, simply because he lacked a sense of enough. We routinely fall into the man-in-the-car paradox. When you see a luxury car, you rarely admire the driver. Instead, you picture yourself in the driver's seat, assuming everyone on the street would admire you. When the singer Rihanna nearly went bankrupt from overspending, she sued her financial advisor. The advisor responded by pointing out a harsh truth. Spending money on things means you end up with the things and not the money. Spending to show people how much money you have is the literal opposite of being wealthy. True wealth is what you don't see. It's the unspent income, the declined upgrades, and the portfolios left alone. Saving money is simply the gap between your ego and your income. The highest dividend money pays isn't the ability to purchase luxury goods. It is the ability to wake up every morning and have complete control over your own time. To achieve that, you have to define what enough looks like for your life. Start saving money even if you don't have a specific reason, and mix calculated risks with extreme defensive paranoia. Most importantly, stop taking financial cues from people playing a different game than you. A short-term speculator and a 20-year retirement saver shouldn't be following the same playbook. True wealth is the invisible flexibility that allows you to survive the unpredictable. Before you chase the next massive return, ask yourself, what is your personal definition of enough?